Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is the follow-up to the critically acclaimed 2014 Marvel Studios film, Guardians of the Galaxy. It stars yet again the likes of Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, and I am forgetting one that I can't remember for my life right now, so... Bradley Cooper. Did I say whatever? And it also joins Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone to the franchise. It is directed by James Gunn and centers around... I will get into that later, because that's a problem I have with this movie. So, I didn't have great expectations going into this movie. The hell was that? I enjoy the first movie, but I don't love it like most people do. So, like... I was excited. I thought it looked solid. I didn't think it looked great. I was not head over heels. I'm not a huge Marvel fan. And I came out of this movie going, yeah, it was good. It wasn't great. It has a lot of good things and a lot of bad things. And at the end of the day, I remember a little bit of both. And it just gives me this, yeah, it was good kind of feeling. So I'll start out with what I liked. The comedy. Overall. When the jokes landed, they really land. It's a very funny movie when the jokes are timed, written, and performed correctly. There's a specific one at the beginning of the movie over the opening credits that is very, very funny the whole way through. That tape scene in the trailer, which actually worried me a lot. I did not think that was funny in the trailer. There's more to it in the movie, and it's very funny. Like, there are a lot of jokes and comedic moments in this movie that work really, really well. And like I said, when they land, they land. They always manage to get a very good reaction out of the audience and put a smile on the audience's face. And when you're able to do that, especially with a superhero movie, and you have to own up to a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, which people loved for its comedy, you really have a lot to live up to when you're making comedy like this. And my primary concern coming into this movie was that everything in the comedy related sector was going to be forced. It was going to be James Gunn going, alright, well, this worked really well in the first movie, so let's just fucking hammer it down in the second movie. And he didn't do that. He did a very good job making it feel natural, and the comedy actually flowed. I guess using that, I'll kind of get into Baby Groot. Like, you're hearing a lot of great things about him. You're not hearing it for no reason. It's a very funny and adorable character, and it does actually add to the movie. It almost, in a way, makes you care more about Groot than you did from the first movie, and I know a lot of people loved Groot in the first movie, but this is just like, if they had brought a little toddler along for this adventure, this is what I would expect to see. He's adorable. His comedy worked really well when they needed him to be funny or have a funny moment or have enjoyable sequences. They worked. It always worked. It never came across as they're just trying to draw a cheap reaction out of the audience. It was always very funny. James Gunn, I noticed this, he's got a very interesting visual style of direction. And it's very good, because it really does bring you into the movie. I remember reading that Ego's Planet is one of the biggest visual effects ever created. And you really get that feeling from James Gunn that he is all about world building. And who he reminds me of, actually, is Luc Besson. Because I actually saw the trailer for Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets before the movie. And it reminds me a lot of his vision and his directing style, and really making the movie a visual experience more so than just watching a movie, because his direction and overall visual representation of the film really does bring an audience member into that. You really, in a way, do feel like you're within these worlds and within these planets and these cities or wherever they happen to be. There are a lot of great set pieces in this movie, a lot of great different places, and the production design in this movie really complements his directing style, and I think it's a good thing that I compare it to Luc Besson. I don't compare it to all of Luc Besson's films, because some of the time Luc Besson goes out of the world, like The Fifth Element, which is one of my favorite movies. I grew up on that movie, and what looks like it's going to be Valerian, and then he does shit like Lucy, but then he can do like a condensed movie like Leon. So I don't know, I got a very similar vibe from James Gunn, and that's a good thing. It doesn't feel like he's copying him at all. It just feels like he has a similar mentality to how he wants to make movies. Kurt Russell actually ended up being the standout to me from this movie. Like, when I walked away from the first Guardians, I just easily went Chris Pratt. He was the obvious standout, and I love him now. And time has passed to the point where we expect a certain thing from Chris Pratt, and he really has yet to fail to deliver. Say what you will about Passengers, I have a lot of gripes with it. He was the best part of that movie. Now, you know, we've seen him in Parks and Rec, now we've seen him in Jurassic World, again, the best part of that movie. We saw him in Guardians, we've seen him in all of these movies now, and we have a certain expectation with Chris Pratt, and he's meeting them, which is good, but he's not, like, going above and beyond. So seeing Kurt Russell in this movie, who was not in the first one, and who appeared in this one, that there was a lot of, maybe Kurt Russell will be cast, maybe he won't be cast. He really lived up to what he had to do. He was great in this movie. I remember every time he was on screen just being really into it and really interested in his character and his connection with Peter Quill and Chris Pratt, and the two of their chemistry was very interesting. He's funny when he needs to be, he's serious when he needs to be, he's interesting when he needs to be, he's action-packed when he needs to be. I enjoyed the hell out of his performance, and he's just walking out of the movie. I remember Kurt Russell. I remember him doing a great job, because he's a great actor, and I always love seeing him in movies. He was meh in Fate of the Furious, but, like, seeing him in The Hateful Eight was awesome. And just kind of touching on, like, what I was just saying about Chris Pratt. All of the Guardians, the actors that play the Guardians of the Galaxy, they brought the charisma they had to. They were kind of the same characters, with the exception of Baby Groot. There really wasn't, like, a whole lot new to them, which is kind of a gripe I have, kind of not. They did what they had to do, but it almost felt like a little bit baseline, but I didn't walk out of the movie going, ugh, they should have done something new with them, because they are charismatic and kind of original and interesting characters that we've never seen before, at least in, like, kind of superhero movie-esque worlds. So, you know, when they do the baseline, it's still very good for an audience, and I think all of the actors really came in and brought the charisma they had to. I think they did a very good job. So let's get into what I didn't like about this movie. And I have 4 pretty main things. The first is that it's kind of complimenting what I first said I liked about the movie. When everything landed, it landed. But the issue is, when things didn't land, it really didn't land. And there were few moments. It didn't happen consistently throughout the movie, which is why I'm willing to kind of let this one slide. But there are a fair amount of comedy moments that they really try and go for it, and it was just kind of silent in the audience. Like, it wasn't just me not laughing, because I had a very reactive audience. I had a packed Thursday night showing theater that was just kind of dead for a lot of jokes, and it really does. When a movie complements itself entirely on comedy, and it has jokes that don't land, there's this weird, like, just yank you out of the movie and go, ugh, that wasn't funny, and then you have to get right back. You have to find it in yourself and within the movie to get back into it. So that can always kind of be difficult. That's a gift and a curse doing a comedy movie is, you know, if you do it 100% correctly, people are going to be into it the whole time, but if you have moments of that, it's going to pull people out of the movie. And yeah, like, even the sentimental moments that they would have, like, there were just moments of comedy and drama that came across. I think the word I could best use for it would be cheesy. They just felt kind of, like, poorly written and in there for the sake of being cheesy-weasy and, like, just throwing stuff at you, and I don't really think it worked too well for the movie. The weak plot is a big problem I had with this movie. I could not sit here and look at this camera and tell you a plot line for this movie. The movie, if I had to sum it up, is a bunch of characters doing a bunch of different things that just kind of, like, at one point gets them to a certain place. There's no real conflict, there's no real goal in the movie, it's just kind of like a bunch of different things happening that eventually gets you to a finale. It's not like, for the first one, it's a relatively generic plot, which is interesting for such an original movie. It's, you know, there's this orb, the bad guys want the orb, so the Guardians have to protect the orb so the bad guys can't get it and destroy the world with the orb. There is a plot line. In this one, it's like, Chris Pratt meets his dad, but at the same time, Rocket and Yondu are out trying to get Yondu's crew to not throw a mutiny, and then Gamora and Peter Quill are having their love interest, and then Dave Bautista's just kind of there. Like, it's just a bunch of characters doing things. It's not like a really straightforward, out there plot line, and that, for me, sometimes it felt like there were scenes, and I was sitting there going, what's the goal of this scene? Like, how is this progressing the story? I don't really understand where this is getting us. And by the time you hit the last 45-ish minutes, yeah, there's an obvious conflict and there's an obvious resolution that we're looking for within these characters. But before that, there really isn't much. There's just a lot of different things happening that get you to a place. That's how I could sum up this movie. This is an issue I'm coming to notice more and more about Marvel movies, specifically in, like, Phase 3. With the exception of Civil Wars. I noticed it in Doctor Strange, I've noticed it in, like, Ant-Man, I noticed it in Iron Man 3, stuff like that. I don't like using the word predictable, because predictable sort of fits within what I'm talking about here. And what I'm saying is that I'm noticing with these movies, they're taking these original storylines, like Doctor Strange, or like this movie, and they're doing them in, like, a by-the-books fashion, to the point where you're watching and you can easily kind of predict what's gonna happen. And it's a little bit annoying, I have to say, because it's happening more and more. Like, this is a very original concept. These are these 5 completely different, completely wacky. There's a human, there's a green alien, there's whatever color Drax is, there's a talking baby tree, and there is a talking raccoon. And they all have to do whatever the hell and save the galaxy. It's a very original and unseen storyline as a whole. But they just do it in, like, a template format in a way that leads you to believe you kind of know what's going to happen next. And the more and more you start being correct about it, the more and more it's difficult to really get into the movie. From, like, one of the first couple scenes that a certain aspect of the movie happens, it's a big part of the movie, I was just like, that's going to end up like that. And it did. And that happened to me a couple different times with the movie, and different characters and different elements of the plot. Like, I just kind of knew how they were going to unfold and what was going to happen to them, and how it was going to change. So it kept, like, my mind kept going, like, yeah, I saw that one coming, and yeah, I saw that coming, and all the while some of the comedy was taking me out of it, and there were so many different gears turning that kept taking me out of the movie. That's the overall problem I have with this movie, is there are so many things that keep taking you out of the movie, and as a movie that has to pride itself on really keeping you interested, a movie that, like, has a lot of moments where you're yanked out of it, that's a big problem. The final thing I wrote down, I guess, is a smaller gripe, but I wrote it exactly like this. I said, Deus Ex fucking Machina. For those of you that don't know what that is, Deus Ex Machina is when a character is, like, in real trouble, and they're probably about to die, or they're probably about to get screwed, and all of a sudden, someone comes in and saves the day. This happens an ungodly amount of times in this movie, and it gets very annoying very quickly. By the time you hit the end of the movie and it happens again, you just go, God damn it. You started to see it coming, too. The last time it happened, I was like, this is about to happen, and then it happened. I was like, yep, there it is, Deus Ex Machina again. It got to the point where it was annoying, and it kept pulling me out, and I was like, this is stupid, and it's bothering me. And the more I talk about this movie, I'm liking it less and less, actually. So overall, this movie's fine. It's fine. It's nothing really special, but it's not bad. It just, there are great moments in this movie. There are great moments, not just of comedy, of action, and even sentimental moments. But there are also those moments that just yank you out of the movie, and they're impossible, for me at least, to ignore. They really messed up my movie-going experience with this movie, and I can't ignore that. As a whole, I say check it out. Marvel fans will be pleased, and overall movie fans are going to enjoy this movie. There are just, and I really do think an overall audience actually might notice these problems and, like, see them and kind of have a gripe with them when they walk out of the movie. I don't think people are going to like this as much as the first one. I didn't like it as much as the first one, and I didn't love the first one. I think it is a inferior movie. I almost said insuperior. It is an inferior movie to the first one, and it's not up there with Marvel's best. And I think it's, gonna disappoint some people, but disappoint doesn't mean they won't like it. I think it'll just be, oh man, it wasn't as good as the first one, but you know what? I still liked it. I say check it out. It can't hurt to see. So, what did you guys think? Did you guys see Guardians of the Galaxy? Did you not see Guardians of the Galaxy? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.